So Out of Darkness is one of the latest horror films to hit theaters so far this year. It takes place 43,000 years during the Old Stone Age, and it follows a group of early humans, aka cavemen, that are in search of new land. But during their travels, they start getting picked off one by one and hunted by some kind of evil creature. And things get really creepy really quickly. Now, I must admit that from a surface level, this sounds very similar to what we just saw recently with Prey, the Predator prequel from 2022. And it is a lot like that, except Prey executed the idea way better. But I mean, I'd personally give Out of Darkness like a 6.5 out of 10. But let's talk about the film more in depth first and get into spoilers. So there's your spoiler warning. So immediately we're introduced to a group of travelers who just recently migrated across the sea to a new land in hopes of better resources, food, warm caves, and just a better overall environment. But it turns out that this new land they arrived to doesn't really seem to have all the better things they were hoping for. Instead, there's no food, the land seems dead, and they can't find any shelter, so the grass wasn't exactly greener on the other side. Until one day, they end up spotting some mountains and trees in the distance. They estimate that it'll take them about 3 days to travel there, and they're pretty excited because that means that there might be caves, which means there'll be shelter. Also, the trees are a sign of life because the land they're currently on is very flat and dead. Also, I forgot to mention that they're speaking some sort of made-up language, so the entire film is in subtitles for authenticity purposes, I would assume. But personally, I don't think it would have made much of a difference if they would have just gone with English, mainly because I believe that there's probably a lot of things here that aren't historically accurate, like them saying the F word. I'm pretty sure cavemen didn't use the F word back then, but we still get the idea they're going for. So as they begin their 3-day trip, along the way while resting for the night, they begin to experience strange things. Like they find a dead mammoth that was forced off the side of a cliff, and there's barely any remains left, like the damn thing was skinned dry. Then after that, the following night, the leader of the clan, Adam, gets his son kidnapped. That's the scene you guys see in the trailers where his ass just gets sucked off into the darkness. That was the unknown creature that snatched him. Adam wants to run off into the darkness to save his son, but Gear talks him out of it, because although understandable, it's not wise to run off into the night behind some demon creature, and it makes more sense to wait until morning. But at the same time, that's your son, so shit, you gotta do what you gotta do. But anyway, they take off the next day to find Heron, that's Adam's son, and they discover a vast dark forest along the way. They're quite hesitant to enter because it's clear that they would be at a disadvantage and probably get lost. Of course, Adam enters anyway because, like I said before, it's his son. The rest of the group is on the fence about heading in too deep into the woods, but they don't really have much of a choice because Adam is basically the leader of the clan. So they continue to travel deeper until they run across this large death puddle of blood and bones with a big ass bloody slaughterhouse chopping block in the center. After they end up stumbling across this place, they hear a earth-shattering scream / screeching noise, and Adam is like, to hell with my son, it's time to go. So yeah, he switched up real quick. They attempt to run away, but later decide that it's better to just stand their ground and light a fire, since it's becoming too dark to see, which may have been a fair idea, but the time passes and it becomes pitch black in the woods. The creature decides to sit out in the darkness and just watch them, and they can hear it moving around in the bushes and scruffling around. So Adam decides to throw a spear, and it sounds like he may have gotten a lucky shot and wounded the damn thing. So he runs out into the darkness to finish it off. Adam gets out there and eventually realizes that he just effed up. He begins hearing sounds and movement all around him in every damn direction, and he can't see shit. Then all of a sudden we just see something jump on his back and just take him. Then we cut back to the group as we can hear Adam off in the distance screaming in agonizing pain and regret. Jesus. So Gear decides that it's time to step up and grow a large pair of balls, so he runs out into the woods to help Adam, and believe it or not, he actually brings him back, but only just barely alive. So now these fools have to put Adam out of his suffering because he's so badly injured. So they basically brought Adam back to kill him. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And they end up eating him since they haven't eaten in days. Yep, that's right. They spent about 10 seconds contemplating on if they should or not, and then after that, Adam became filet mignon. Gear is the only one who refused to eat Adam. Odell, which is, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, he's the oldest in the clan, and he thinks that they should sacrifice someone in the clan, and then the creature might leave them alone. So the next morning, Gear tries to lead the group out of the woods now that Adam is dead. I guess he just put himself in command of the group, but he ends up leading them in a circle, and it's clear that they're lost and he doesn't know where the hell he's going. So Odell basically goes with his plan of trying to sacrifice someone. So now Oldal and another member, Av, proceed with his plan of wanting to sacrifice someone, and that someone turns out to be Bea, a young stray that the clan just basically adopted way before the film started. So it seems like the original plan for Bea was for her to be someone Adam could mate with at some point and have more offsprings. So Oldal thinks the monster can smell her period and that the creature is drawn to her for this reason. So yeah, they want to sacrifice her. Gear is unable to help during this time because he gets knocked unconscious in the tussle to protect Bea from the others. So she's nearly shit out of luck as the others prepare to hold her down to be sacrificed. But soon after, we hear the creature screeching in the distance, and this distraction allows Bea to escape. Oldal and Av lost their offering, so now they try to prepare to fight. But since Oldal is a snake, he stabs Av instead to use her as the sacrifice. Once she falls, she pulls Oldal's ankle, which causes him to fall over and break his fragile old ass legs. Afterwards, Av bleeds out, and Oldal has to sit in the darkness, unable to move, and has to wait to die, which they both deserve their fates here for being cowards. The next morning comes and Gear and Bea watch from afar as Oldal is about to be killed by the creature, but Bea decides to use this moment instead to attack while it's distracted. She tackles it to the ground and notices that the head of the creature fell off, and here is basically where the film gives away all of its leverage by revealing that the creature isn't a monster at all. Instead, it's a slightly more undeveloped version of the cavemen, and what fell off was just a mask. I mean, this is a true caveman. It has the look, doesn't seem to have developed a language like the others we follow, and instead it just communicates through screams, and it uses stone tools as we find out later. So yeah, true caveman here. Now this, in my personal opinion, is where the film could have really became something greater, instead of giving us this big reveal that the monster isn't really a monster. But before getting into all of that, I'll give you guys the ending of the movie first, and then I'll get into my thoughts about it. So the monster caveman escapes and Gear and Bea end up tracking him down to a cave in the mountains. Once they get there, we find out that Adam's son Heron is actually still alive and that the caveman actually kidnapped him to take care of him? Which is a weird storyline to go with, but okay. And yes, that's right, there's two cavemen. The one we see earlier in the film is actually the son of a larger caveman that we see later in the caves. But anyway, Bea, the young stray girl, ends up killing both cavemen on her own without any help from Gear, because Gear is pretty much a useless character in this film. The only useful thing he does in this movie is that he shows up just in time to get his head smashed in by the last caveman long enough so Bea and the young boy Heron can escape. That's it. You think he's about to show up to save the day, and instead he just reminds us how useless he is. So yeah, F Gear. But anyway, during this time, the inside of the cave somewhere is on fire, so the place is getting really smoked out. Also, when they first got there, they saw like this female corpse that the cavemen were worshiping, which was probably the mom that had died at some point or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, Bea and Heron end up escaping. And then the film pulls one of those tropes where the killer isn't really dead by having the caveman try to follow them out. But Bea smashes his head in with a rock. I guess that's just karma. And then they both go on to live their Stone Age periods happily ever after. Now see, this is not a terrible movie. But what would have made it better is if they would have actually leaned into and gone with the fictional creature aspect of it. Instead of saying it's just other humans, let it be something unknown, some ridiculously powerful, fast, mythical creature that's now extinct. Because this is more of a fake out, and there's nothing exactly wrong with the film pulling a misdirect on the audience, but when the misdirect feels lazy, unimaginative, and just straight up disappointing, then honestly you really just would have been better off going with what you sold it to be, instead of giving us such a forgettable experience. So yes, in my opinion, Out of Darkness squandered its potential, and it should have been a monster movie, but it's still not terrible. But anyway, thank you guys for watching.